Welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, along with Johan Bernil, stage 11 of the 2023 Tour de France. And Johan will have some interesting things to share with us. You know, what was going on with a hard day like this after a rest day, what's going on with different team dynamics, who's protecting podium positions or top 10 positions. There's a lot going on, and just a hard, hot day. Okay, Johan, today was an exciting day. Very hard to predict all this stuff. I don't know how you guys are doing outcomes on days like that. It's just a wild card sort of day. But the win today went to Pello Bilbao, which, you know, I went immediately when it looked like he had a chance at it. I'm going to look up his stats. And this is a guy that's been around a while. And that's why the name was so familiar. Very, very experienced rider. And a big win, and there's a lot of. I'll let you share why this win was so important for personal reasons, and also for Spain.
Yeah, well, Pello Bilbao, you know, he's 33 years old. Very, very valued rider in the peloton. He's, I think, actually, at least until last year, he was top 10 in the UCI ranking. Actually. You know, has been top 10 in Grand Tours a few times, won stages in the Giro. I don't know if that's his first stage win in the Tour. Probably not. He won stages in the Giro for sure, and in the Vuelta. But yeah, I mean, it was a strong breakaway. You know, there was 12 riders in front, with some really, really big names, and obviously Pello Bilbao was a rider that everybody remarked. You know, he has the pedigree, but also he was the most interested for the GC. Although his ultimate goal and his ultimate motivation was none other than honoring his sadly passed away teammate Gino Mäder a few weeks ago in the Tour of Switzerland. That's also what he said straight away after the finish. You know, he said, you know, I didn't care about the GC. I just had one mission. I wanted to win a stage in his honor. Here you have it, Gino. This is for you. Wow.
So, and it was, and you know, a lot of these guys are teammates, and they don't spend a lot of time together necessarily. If you're on the same team, you could be on different squads, you know, based in different parts of the world. But these two in particular were pretty tight.
Yeah, they are. They were tight at the beginning of the tour. Obviously, the whole Bahrain team, they have this little mark on their jersey and on their helmets. We ride for Gino. That's logical. I mean, what a you know, incredible trauma it must be, you know, to lose a teammate in a team. But so, you know, it serves also as an extra source of motivation. But Bilbao, before the tour, announced that he was continuing the charity that Gino Mäder had started a couple of years ago, I think, in the Tour of Spain. I remember that Mäder was very, very involved with the preservation of the environment, and he set up a little game during the Tour of Spain that, you know, every stage he was going to try, of course, to end up as high as possible. He finished 5th in the Tour of Spain, by the way, that year, and every stage he was going to pay a certain amount of money for every rider that finished behind him. And he would dedicate that money to a charity which is about planting trees and preserving certain areas that are in danger of disappearing. Bilbao announced that he was continuing that charity, and that specifically with the money that was raised during this Tour de France, the same as Mäder would have done, plus asking for donations live on TV. They wanted to buy a land in the Basque Country and plant trees there and give it Gino Mäder's name to that new forest, I would say. So there's another thing that I read, which is a very emotional detail, I would say. Gino Mäder also was an animal friend, and he got a dog from a shelter in Spain, from a rescue dog. And the shelter was based in Bilbao, and he named his dog Pello. In honor of Pello Bilbao. So yeah, I mean, they were very, very close, and you could see that Pello Bilbao was he was super, super motivated to win a stage like today. You have to be super strong, first of all, but also have that extra special motivation. And I mean, I think the whole peloton, and on top of that, Pello Bilbao is a rider who's very, very liked in the peloton, a very social guy, and I think we had a really nice winner today.
Yeah, you've talked about it in the past. Those days when you've got the strength of two men. You've talked about it after your father passed. Lance has talked about it after Casartelli passed. There must be an understanding among the peloton if something happens to me, you guys got to go on. Like that's. Mm-hmm. There are some sports where somebody passes, there's an accident, they call it off. But I think among cyclists, it's like they would say, you have to race on, right? Don't stop anything for me, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's listen, I mean, I've been part only once of the Casartelli incident, and it's it is it's terrible. It's terrible, but it's like in normal life, right? Life goes on. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really nice that the cycling community keeps honoring their colleague and their friend. But what a stage today, man! I mean, to first of all, to be part of that breakaway. If you look at the composition of the breakaway, it was all really, really very strong riders. You had Asgreen in there, you had Alaphilippe in there. At the beginning, Mohoric was trying to get in there. Chavez, Kwiatkowski, O'Connor, Schielmose, Barguil. I mean, all guys that have either won stages already in the tour or were champions or world champions, national champions. It was a really, really strong breakaway. And then to be able to win from that breakaway, of course, is super, super difficult. So, but nobody was surprised to see Pello Bilbao win. He's an all-rounder and he has the experience, and he's also quite fast.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about that when it gets to breakaways and being tactical to get the win. That's where the seasoned riders have a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, and also a guy like Bilbao, he's not a spring chicken, and so of course winning a stage in the Tour is amazing for any rider. But if you have these other younger guys in there who are kind of they want to obtain something big, and then and they're riding well, but they're so excited that sometimes they make mistakes. Here in this case, Bilbao, winning a stage or not winning the day was not going to change his career. So that gives you an advantage that you can really buy your time and just say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try once. And he was, he just tried it at the end and made all the right moves.
Well, let's kind of work backwards here. It was a difficult day and after a rest day, which riders hate, and it proved to be true because it just is a shock to your system, right? And then today, tell me more about that and what that's like, and then I'll add to it. Do you think the Tour intentionally let's put something really difficult after a rest day because it shakes things up?
It does. I mean, this is a typical day. Like if I think back in my days as a racer, you see this profile, you said, "Holy shit, this is not good," And I don't think anybody liked today's stage. Rest days are a complicated phenomenon in a stage race, and most of the riders can use it, but a lot of riders can't deal with it. And it's not because it's and your body reacts certain times in a different way. So today you could clearly see. I mean, at some point there was people all over the place. A fast start, of course. Everybody was suffering. I mean, I'm sure that everybody was suffering, but a lot of it from now on is also like in these starts of these difficult stages, it's a mental issue also. You need to be mentally prepared, mentally ready to suffer for that first 30 minutes. But today, I traveled back from Belgium this morning. So when I landed in Spain, the stage was on already, and there was people all over. And I said, man, this is exactly what you would expect, very hot, 40 degrees Celsius, which is 105 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. In that part of France, not one single meter of flat, up and down. I mean, there was the categorized climbs, but then all the other non-categorized climbs, which is, really a torture. Also, the pavement is quite rough over there in that part. So the typical nightmare rest day, post rest day stage. And
you know what? I'll address this because a few people have asked. They're like, when it's these kind of temperatures this hot, why don't they start them earlier? And I know we've talked about this before, but it's been a few years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it would definitely change something. The finish, of course, would be, if they start 2 hours earlier, then you finish, instead of 5 p.m., you finish 3 p.m., which is actually the hottest part of the day, right? So, but at least they would have 2 hours of, maybe 5 degrees less in the morning, right? But yeah, 5 o'clock is like peak time for TV.
It's prime time. That's the coverage, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the sponsors want. They don't want it running while you're at work.
Exactly.
They want everyone to see.
Yeah. Or, it's a holiday now, but, normally in Europe, every important race finishes around 5, because, and even during weekdays, because that's when parents get back with their kids from school. And so yeah, but hydration these days is crucial. I don't know how many bottles they drink per stage, but and nowadays also a part of drinking, you see a lot of cooling down with ice water or ice cubes and
the ice vests afterward, or the ice bath, like everything to bring that temperature down right away.
Yeah, but man, 40 degrees Celsius, that's hot. Man, I could.
Which is funny to hear your reaction, because where you live,
right now, it's about that. It is 40 degrees here right now.
Yeah, right. And that's about what it is in my hometown of Austin. Yeah. This time of year, that's that hot. But there's a difference between riding and racing in those temperatures.
Yeah, and it's there's a difference. Sitting and doing a podcast here inside with this,
slight difference.
With, chill drink.
Okay, let's go backwards a little bit, Johan, and talk about how aggressive this race was early. Yeah. In this break happening early, and what was going on with Pogačar, Sepp Kuss, Adam Yates. Let's get into some of that.
Yeah, we could see at some point the main group was only 40 riders left. Breakaway gone. That breakaway of 12 riders also got together after a while, like Alaphilippe and Kwiatkowski, and I don't remember who else was there. These guys had to chase for a long time to get back. You could also say Alaphilippe and Kwiatkowski were two big candidates for the stage win, but they had to spend so much already to get to the first 6 guys that ultimately they paid for it. I picked Kwiatkowski in outcomes yesterday as my wild card, so I was getting ready. I said, this is great, but unfortunately he didn't make it. But yeah, at some point I didn't see it happening, but then all of a sudden there was a little group in front, and Pogačar was there with 2 teammates, and Vingegaard was there with only 1 teammate, and I said, what the hell? There's so much action going on. And we've talked about it a few times already in past stages. This question about Sepp Kuss and Adam Yates. Sepp Kuss being the last guy for Jonas Vingegaard, and Adam Yates, the second best rider in UAE, and why they are up there in GC. And today it was clear why. Definitely. I think Jumbo-Visma had this plan from the beginning because I think they really are a team that plan out everything and then stick to that plan. Sometimes a bit too much, but Sepp Kuss is up there, especially for stages like today. Then they have Sepp Kuss in a group, and ideally, then Ineos has to pull to bring it back because or UAE has to pull because he gets closer in GC. Today, actually, both teams took advantage of the fact that Pello Bilbao was in the front. Pello Bilbao was in the front, and he got all of a sudden up to 6th, 7th in GC and started to become a threat for the 4th place. Actually, 4th and 7th for Ineos. They have Carlos Rodriguez and Tom Pidcock, and also Simon Yates is up there in GC. So Ineos started to work in the final of the stage, which was great for Jumbo-Visma. And even Jaco Alula started to work with one or two guys to protect or to preserve the chances of Simon Yates for GC. But yeah, Sepp Kuss was there, and of course Adam Yates was on him. So basically neutralizes that whole plan of having Sepp Kuss up there in GC, high up there, and because Adam Yates is in 5th or was in 5th, he's now I think in 6th, right? Because he's in 6th now because Pello Bilbao climbs up to 5th place. So there was a lot going on. Initially, we saw two big groups on TV, of course, because it's Tour de France. They were focusing on Group 2 because David Gaudu was in there, who was 4th last year in the Tour and was the big hope for a podium for France and for Groupama FDG, and Romain Bardet, ex-podium, ex-second in the Tour de France in the past, and also a guy from top 10. So they were way back. So they didn't really digest the rest day very well. But surprisingly, also there was 3 riders of Jumbo-Visma in that group of distance riders with Wout van Aert. So I was really surprised to see that. So they are not robots and Superman who can be there all the time. I think Wout van Aert's legs in the first part of the race today hurt like hell also.
Today's show is brought to you by Ketone IQ, brought to you by HVMN. In fact, in 2 or 3 days, we're going to talk to Michael from HVMN, interesting guest, and we can find a lot more about ketones. But I've been passing it out to friends to try. So give this a go, whether you're racing or just want to feel better, be more alert, just make it part of your routine. And I've mentioned it on the show before. I've seen the biggest difference in mental alertness, clarity, energy, not bonking throughout the day, and I attribute it to starting to take these on the regular basis 2 or 3 months ago. So, you can do a subscription where they send it to you on the regular. It's pretty easy, and we can save you 30%. All right. If you want to give it a try, I suggest giving it 2 or 3 months at least. And you can do a subscription to have it sent to you regularly and get 30% off, which is really important. hvmn.com/themove. And get 30% off. So one more time, hvmn.com/themove, and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Today's show is also brought to you by Ventum. You should check out their GS1 or their NS1. The GS1's the gravel, NS1's the road bike. Of course, Ventum was in the game with tri-bikes too. If that's your thing, you should see some of their designs and the performance of some of their tri-bikes. But, we're more roadies around here, so we've been playing with the GS1 and the NS1 for some time. And something that I really like about it is I've been through it 2 different ways. One where they just sent me one of what I should be riding, and one where I went online and spec'd it all out, which was a really interesting thing to do. And I kind of compared it, not that I was going to buy another brand, but I compared it to how some of these other brands online allow you to do it. And without a doubt, Ventum has so many more options as you're building out your bike, as you're speccing it out. You can pick the handlebars. You can pick, of course, your stem length, your crank length, and just the whole array of components, whichever one you prefer, the higher level, if you're more serious, if you race, or if you're just want to ride on Saturdays and just tool around, you don't have to spend that much money. But the frame is the same either way, whether you spec it out as a $3,000 bike or a $15,000 bike. It's one frame, top of the line. It's not downgraded for a lower end bike. Check it out at ventumracing.com and you can get 10% off. 10% off when you use the code WEDO at checkout at ventumracing.com/the move. You know, you mentioned Ineos doing some polling, and I'm reminded of the last few years of us doing the show. We would talk about, you would point out that Ineos was up and pulling for no reason, just because that's what they've always done. They've always controlled the race. This year, we're seeing a very different Ineos. Rodriguez is right there. What do you know? What can we expect from Rodriguez in this, going into the third week? Could it be a real threat?
Yeah, well, now that they're pulling for a reason. They know what their goal is. Obviously they have shifted their mentality. They know they're not going to win this tour, right? And they knew this already before the start. They didn't even know for sure who their designated leaders were going to be. So now they have Rodriguez up there. Carlos Rodriguez is in fourth place. Young talent, really, really good rider. Plus they have Tom Pidcock in the top 10. He was 7th until today. So I think that's going to be their goal, to try to keep these guys up there. Because that's obviously, it's nice. I mean, Rodriguez is now in fourth position. Jay Hindley has shown at some point some kind of weakness on the Puy de Dôme. So maybe Rodriguez could be a candidate. I think he can do it. The strange thing, though, with Ineos and Carlos Rodriguez is that they're riding for him. They're really focusing on him. And I'm hearing, it's not confirmed, but I'm hearing from reliable sources that he's leaving Ineos and goes to Movistar to be their top leader.
A little bit of scoop there. We also saw Alpecin starting to ride off the front a little bit today. What was did they think they were going to set up Philipsen?
That was really something that I was super surprised. The breakaway was gone. They had 2.5, 3 minutes. Jumbo-Visma was controlling it. So basically the peloton was slowing down a bit, but still, maintaining the distance with the breakaway. And all of a sudden, I see. First, there was one rider. I think it was. I forget his name now. Damn. I forgot his name. Anyway, Alpecin guy. So he started to pull together with one guy from Jake Walula. So what do you look then? Why are they doing this? Well, Philipsen was in the group, and no other sprinters were in the group. And Jake Walula was started to pull because Simon Yates' position became under threat by Pello Bilbao. Now, Quinten Hermans was the guy. Quinten Hermans from Alpecin, second last year in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But then all of a sudden, you see Mathieu van der Poel on the front and going like really, really fast. So, but nobody else was there. So it was Wout van Aert sitting in his wheel. Jumbo-Visma didn't. They were fine with the break as long as it stayed around this 3-minute mark. And Mathieu van der Poel goes and goes and goes and even Mathieu van der Poel on his own, there is no way he can bring back these 12 or 14 riders. That's you
rattled off the names earlier. That was a well represented breakaway.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
Too much talent.
Ben O'Connor, Pello Bilbao, Asgreen, Skiel Mose, Alaphilippe, Kwiatkowski. Forget it. And so I think, what are they doing? So I still don't understand now. This is now, we're now at least an hour and a half after the stage. I don't know what was happening. And I even understand less, except the fact that both Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert are incredible bike handlers. They're having fun going downhill, and they just got away from the peloton. When they got 15 seconds, they looked at each other, and they said a few words and they started to work together.
And how many times have they done that in their career, right? These guys are just attached at the hip. We've talked about it for a long time. One goes, I'll go. They just are used to that, and they find themselves off the front line.
But there also, you have to question, okay, it's nice, but once you see that after 4 or 5 kilometers, the difference stays the same. I think they were 240 behind when they went away, and then all of a sudden it went to 220, and then it went up to 227, and it stayed around. So you're not going anywhere, even Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert. So that was really very, a lot of energy spent for nothing. So I personally think that these guys they're super strong. So tomorrow they're going to be back at it again for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, from then it was clear that, listen, if even those two super engines going full gas cannot take any time back, there's no way.
Yeah, and they know how to work together. Like, it's incredible. Yeah. We're seeing some big breakaways, large groups, but you anticipate these to get smaller and smaller, right?
Well, smaller and smaller. No, I'm anticipating what we're going to see more and more of the same riders. We're coming into this second half. So after the first rest day, we get the typical situation where we will see the same guys over and over again on days like today. I always say, and after the first mountain stages, and you have 1 or 2 transition stages, the tour, you get into a mode where you have 30 humans, and then you have 50 hospital patients who are, some of them are in ICU because they're in bad shape, and the 100 other riders are zombies. They're just riding around and just trying to get to Paris, And today we could see the start of this. There were 30 humans, 50 hospital patients, and 100 zombies today. And the zombies are going to get more and more in numbers.
And all of us watching and listening would give anything to be a zombie, which sounds funny. Like just to do the event would be amazing.
It's not fun. Listen, I can tell you, once you're there now and after today, if you ask after today to the whole peloton, what did you think about today? Is it nice to be here? They would say, go away. I don't want to even answer that question. Today was torture, really torture.
How many Grand Tours did you complete as a rider? We know your director history well, but
let's see. I never did the Giro. I was never in a team that was focusing on the Giro. So tours 7 or 8, and Vuelta's probably 5 or 6. So about 13 or 14.
Wow, real quick.
Not that many actually.
That sounds like a lot to me.
Well, yeah, but I had a few years that, the first 3 years I didn't do any Grand Tour because I was a small team. And then out of the years that I was on a bigger team, there was 2 or 3 years that I was injured and couldn't do a Grand Tour. So, but I've done a lot of years of 2 Grand Tours in one season.
And we won't spend a ton of time on it, but reflecting on your Grand Tours, which was your best and which one was just the worst?
Well, my best Grand Tour was, in terms of results, podium in the Vuelta, 3rd place in the Vuelta in 95. The worst. I think the worst was my last tour. Definitely my last. So 98. It was also my last year as a pro cyclist. I crashed on stage 1. We had a prologue. It was started in Ireland. We had a prologue. Chris Boardman had won it, so he was in the yellow jersey. Stage 1, I'm in a crash. Boardman is involved also. Boardman and I broke 3 ribs. Oof. And I went on for 10 days with 3 broken ribs until the first big mountain stage, and that was it. I got to experience the parallel world of the zombies in the back. Because that's where you always hang around. You're always around the same people. If you look at the peloton in the tour, This is its own little world, and you have the same people at the same places all the time. So yeah, that 98 was that was a nightmare.
Wow. And what year did you go off the cliff?
That was 96.
That was 96. So you can go off a cliff and it still wasn't your worst year. That's cycling
it was
right there.
No, it was definitely not my worst year. No.
Wow. A great clip to Google, by the way. Johan 96 goes off a cliff and hikes back up there ready to go. It's a great clip, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Okay, now let's take a look at stage 11. You know, I looked at the profile, and after today, you know, I kind of blurted out on the move, oh, maybe they're going to look forward to this day. And of course, Lance and George were like, no, not so easy. What are your thoughts on tomorrow?
There are no more easy stages from now on in the tour. You know, tomorrow it looks on paper, okay, it could be, it could be a bunch sprint, but you know, I mean, if you look at the beginning of the stage, you know, they have those those Cat 4 climbs, and then a few others that are not even. Look, I'm just looking at the profile here. I see the biggest peak of tomorrow's stage is not even a classified KOM. So very, very, very appropriate for breakaways, and then it's gonna be up to the teams with sprinters to see if they have enough power left to make it back. Let's not forget, you know, now we get into this complicated stage of the tour where sprinters are tired because they got dropped on climbs, and on top of that, they have teammates around them, sometimes 3 or 4 teammates who basically their job is to make sure that these guys get on time to the finish. And even if sometimes they're 30 minutes, 35 minutes behind, it takes a lot of energy to do exactly the same trajectory as the peloton, but on your own, or with 3 or 4 teammates and no other help. So, you know, they're running out of gas. You know, I still think it can be a bunch sprint. It's not an easy stage, but you know, some sprinters are not going to make it, or they're going to be so tired that they can't sprint anymore. That's also going to start happening. Tomorrow, I can't really say. You know, it could be. Look, the fastest sprinter is Jasper Philipsen, right? And everybody knows he won 3 stages already. So Alpecin is in a dream situation. They do not have to obsess about getting another bunch sprint. You know, it's not there's very few teams, if any, that are going to go home with 3 stage wins.
Right?
So anything that they do now is a bonus, and they still have Paris, which is a guaranteed bunch sprint. So that could be something that motivates other riders to go in breakaways. But it's a lot harder than you would think on the profile, and especially after finishing destroyed from the terrain, the speed, and the heat of today.
Any new tricks they've learned to rehydrate better on days like this?
I think they're doing. I mean, first of all, the products, the composition of the supplements and the minerals has improved incredibly. You know,
as opposed to just sugary drinks was what it used to be. Right?
Then you had sugary drinks, and then you had mineral drinks like isotonic drinks. The isotonic drinks have now specialized so much that the absorption of all the minerals you need is a lot better than before. I remember at the beginning when we got isotonic drinks, this is what is it like 35 years ago, you could get problems with your stomach. You know, now this is all so fine-tuned that really what goes in gets absorbed, you know. Then there's a bunch of new technology, or just simple things that before we simply couldn't do because we didn't have the resources or the manpower. You know, the cooling down after the stages, it all helps tremendously. And especially in the stages they're going to have now, because it looks like the heat has arrived and it's here to stay.
Okay, we have obviously a brand new NS1, the Ventum road bike, up for grabs just by participating in the trivia, and it's fun. Yesterday's question was, who was the youngest rider ever to win the Tour de France? The answer, did you know it without looking it up? No?
I've seen it on the other show. I had no idea.
Henry Cornet of France, the youngest winner of the Tour. He was 19 years old. This was in 1904.
Oh, wow. So the second Tour de France ever.
Yeah, the second Tour de France. And he won this guy won Paris-Roubaix too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we would need to see how many participants, how many stages, how long but just think about it. If you, I can only imagine, probably no derailleur, so no gears, but not probably, for sure.
Yeah.
No gears. Long stages, so big endurance, and a young guy like that's quite impressive.
It is. Yeah. His nickname was Le Rigolo.
Le Rigolo. The fun maker, the joker.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. See, very good. Yeah. Lance and George didn't get that. Go ahead.
Of course not. Of course they didn't.
Today's question, and you can answer it for a chance to win that bike. And this will take a little more effort to find the answer, I believe. Who was Lance Armstrong's youth swim coach? So you're probably going to have to dig around and find an interview somewhere that mentions that. That's a little more obscure. We'll take some work.
I can tell you I have no idea.
I know, that's a tough one. So do your research, whatever you need to do to find out. Email your answer to trivia@ventumracing.com, and you're entered to win an NS1, which we'll give away at the end of the tour. All right. A couple questions for you, Johan. First, Cheryl writes, greetings from southern Italy. Question for Johan. Andy Schleck was a very accomplished climber early in his career. How would he compare to Pogacar and Vingegaard as a climber, not on a time trial bike? I'm a happy retiree from California, riding around Puglia every Sunday with an amazing Italian cycling group. Their motto is always in the saddle. That's Cheryl.
From Puglia. Okay, I'll tell you something about Puglia. I'll first answer the question. Well, Andy Schleck, obviously, when he came to the professional cycling, if I'm not mistaken, in his first year pro, he finished second in the Giro. Came to the forefront straight away, and then got into these battles with first with Cadel Evans. And then with Alberto Contador, it was Contador versus Andy Schleck. And in the mountains, he was quite equal to Alberto Contador. Contador was a better time trialist. He was a more complete rider. But Andy Schleck was an amazing talent, and pure natural born talent. You could see the guy was just made to be on the bike. And it looked to me, I've worked with him for 1 year when we merged Radio Shack and Leopard, which is now still was still Team Trek and now Little Trek. So that's the same team. And it was, I could work with him for 1 year, and it was clear, the guy just had it naturally. I'm not going to say he had to train less, but yeah, he had to train less. He could get away with less training and still be good. He was really that good.
Training, we were saying training less helped him. Would he, or he could just get it?
He was so talented that he was on a super high level with less training than the others.
Oh wow!
Yeah. No, very very nice guy. We had him on the show last year, 2 years ago, I think. We had him on the show, right, as a guest.
Yeah, I've heard all of you speak fondly of him.
Yeah, and he's at the Tour de France. I think he's one of the VIP guides for Skoda, which is one of the main sponsors of the Tour de France. So super nice.
How about Puglia? You've intrigued my.
Okay, Puglia, yeah, Puglia, yes. So my second last year, end of 97, I raced the Tour of Puglia. Puglia is deep south of Italy. It's like, all the way down. And very, everything's very remote. And so I raced the Tour of Puglia. I got into a crash and I broke my pelvis.
Oh,
and so
that can often be a career ender right there.
It basically was it basically was. I still did 1 year, but it was not like before. I was not sitting the same on the bike, and so of course, you're there, you're in the ambulance. Actually, my team director, Theo de Roy, he stepped out of the car and came with me in the ambulance to the hospital, and the mechanic drove further with the car to the finish. So that was super nice. I always remember that he was extremely nice to me, and it felt like, even okay, I was already 33 years old, but you're still there. You're in a foreign country. You broke your pelvis, and then they bring you to a hospital. I mean, that hospital was just something else. It was a military hospital, and everything was old, and they came there. I didn't speak Italian, and I could understand that they were gonna. We need to do surgery. I said, Theo, I am not getting surgery here. This is no way. And then Theo, again, we had at Rabobank. I was at Rabobank that year, and we had an extremely good medical insurance. So Theo and the team organized that a private ambulance plane could come and pick me up and bring me back to. I went to a hospital in Belgium, and there they looked after me. And finally, I didn't need surgery, so it healed without surgery. But
did you hear them say the Italian word for amputate or something?
No. But you know what I mean? Well, you imagine all kinds of things. I was there in pain, and you see, I mean, there was a lot of people, and I was in a big room where there was a lot of other injured people, and there was this Italian families coming there, and I said, okay, Theo, you need to get me out of here. So thank you, Theo. I still remember. I'm very grateful that you took care of me there, and I will never forget it.
It's now Cheryl. I'm thinking of our listener, Cheryl. Don't have an accident. Don't have an accident in Puglia.
Well,
okay?
Listen, if she's established there and she rides bikes, and I'm pretty sure she has everything well organized.
And we talked about it at one of the races earlier this year, of the resources that riders have to get the proper care right away, to fly them to the right surgery immediately.
Yeah.
A lot more resources now for cyclists.
Yeah. I mean, so, I was very privileged back then. This is 1997. So it's a while ago that I could actually take advantage of that service and get into I remember it was a private plane, a hospital bed, a doctor and a nurse with me. So it was unbelievable. It was great to get taken care of like that, and being flown back to my hometown, actually.
All right, one more question here, because I know you've got a lot more to do today. Predicting tomorrow's outcome is going to be challenging. Yeah. And then you guys are probably going to spend a lot of time on La Movida talking about having a Spanish winner. So one more question here. This is from Jim. Says, has the UCI ever entertained the idea of teams trading for riders like they do in other sports, as opposed to buying out contracts or just waiting it for an end, then like literally saying, I'll trade you this rider for that rider?
Yeah, no. The answer is no. They've never. I mean, potentially you could do it if even if it's not within the UCI's rules, you could do it. If there's actually, what, I don't know now, because contracts normally, all contracts starts on January 1st, they end on December 31st. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that there would be a way around, but it's just not common in cycling. It's
that has to be so specific and perfect to be the rider you want and someone that this for the deal to go down. A lot of stars would have to align.
That's the thing, I mean, if you want a rider, it's almost sure that the team he's on won't let him go unless there's a huge reward. And then you have the budget issues, like if you're in the middle of the season, your sponsorship money is up. You've spent, or already what you're going to spend it on before the start of the season. So cycling, I can't see it happening. There would need to be changed something into the economics, in the revenue stream of in cycling, and that's the eternal debate. The cake is not shared in right proportions. It's
the organization versus the riders. Yeah,
well, it's ASO goes with the major share, and we've talked about it. Riders' radios, for example. This year we see it. We see sometimes this little clip. Something we've been pushing for 20 plus years to have this and sell this. Well, ASO got around it, and they got the teams fooled. So the teams get €5,000 for them to let ASO use their internal secret communications. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for your question, Jim. Really appreciate it. If you want to do a future question, sorry we can only get to so many during the day, but I do read them all and appreciate you writing in. Just send it to JB2, JB2 at wedo.team. And Johan, we will be back tomorrow.
We'll be back tomorrow, JB.
And tell Victor Hugo we said happy birthday. We mentioned it on the move today.
Really.
That was yesterday, but it was.
It was his birthday yesterday. The day before, it was the 20th anniversary of his yellow jersey. But I would definitely tell him happy birthday.
Yeah, he's having a good week, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Johan.
Okay. Bye.